Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament. Looking in the book of Acts right now, we're going chronologically, and today we're coming to you from the snowy, cold South Georgia weather. I think a lot of y'all know we're based out of South Georgia, on the we're about 10 miles from the Florida border, and it is currently snowing outside, and we're supposed to get several inches of ice and snow tonight. So not something that happens very often down here. So I thought I'd document it in this video as we are going through that. So all of us who watch these in this area enjoy these. I know there's a lot of people up north that watch these, so y'all are probably thinking y'all crazy, but it's fine. It's fun, and we're enjoying the snow. So today we're looking at Peter healing Aeneas and Dorcas. I think Aeneas is how you pronounce that, is a pronunciation of that, and raises Dorcas. And so we're going to look at this. It's a short section, so we'll go through this pretty quickly. So today I'll read this, and so we're Acts 9 verses 32 through 43. It says, "Meanwhile, Peter traveled from place to place, and he came down to visit the believers in the town of Lydia. There he met a man named Aeneas who had been paralyzed and bedridden for 8 years. Peter said to him, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and roll up your sleeping mat. And he was healed instantly. Then the whole population of Lydia and Sharon saw him walking around, and then they turned to the Lord. There was a believer in Joppa named Tabitha, which in the Greek was Dorcas. She was always doing kind things for others and helping the poor. About this time, she became ill and died. Her body was washed for burial and laid in the upstairs room. But the believers had heard that Peter was nearby at Lydia, so they sent 2 men to beg her, please come as soon as possible. So Peter returned with them, and as soon as he arrived, they took him upstairs to the room. The room was filled with widows who were weeping and showing him the coats and other clothes Dorcas had made for them. But Peter asked them all to leave the room. Then he knelt and prayed. Turning to the body, he said, get up, Tabitha. And she opened her eyes. When she saw Peter, she sat up. He gave her his hand and helped her up. Then he called in the widows and all the believers, and he presented her to them alive. The news spread through the whole town, and many believed in the Lord. And Peter stayed a long time in Joppa, living with Simon, a tanner of hides. And so we see this. And so following his account of Saul, we looked at we started at the beginning of chapter 9, looking at Saul, his conversion and his time in Damascus, and now Luke here transitioned back to Peter, who was last seen in Samaria. And now the other thing we got to remember is, like, some of these chapter jumps or sections from verse to verse, right, is jumps in months and not, if not years. And so these are things that happen over time, and I wanted to make sure that we see that. So these 2 episodes here continue to illustrate God's confirming the gospel through the apostles' miracles, and then the gospel expanding outward into Judea. So leaving Jerusalem and starting to go out. And so, and Peter makes it clear here that it is Jesus that's healing these people. It's not, he doesn't take any of the credit for himself. So he heals the lame man here, and then someone else finds out he's nearby, and he goes and raises Dorcas from the dead. And obviously she had an enormous impact on the community. Apparently she made all kinds of things in clothes and helping the poor, and gave them to them by making them clothes and garments that we see here. And so when she died, the room was filled with mourners. Very likely, many of the people we see it was many of the people she would help, because they were showing Peter, hey, look what she made for, look what she did for it. And so we see that, and it's so obviously they were hopeful that Peter could do something. And what we see here is Peter's words to Dorcas was almost identical to Jesus's when he spoke to Jairus' daughter in Mark 5:41. And so very, very similar phrasing for raising them from the dead. And so it's interesting to see that this was helped continue. Obviously, I mean, people see this and they're going to believe. And it's going to help spread the message, and we're going to see that you're healing people like this, you're raising people from the dead, that then it's going to again continue to spread the message of Jesus, and people are going to convert. So this is what we see here, and we can do the same thing in a similar sense, right? Now, maybe we can't heal people by laying our hands on them and raise people from the dead, right? But we can still meet people's physical needs. right? In today's world, where there's a lot of people who we could help medically, right? With whatever, there's people who need medical treatment. However we want to help them, we can. And now, again, we may not be able to lay our hands on them and heal them like that way, but we can help heal them in other ways and be there for people's physical needs. And that's what you really saw Jesus and the apostles do. They met people's physical needs first, and then they talked to them about Christ. And so we can mirror this, maybe not in a miraculous way, but we can still mirror this and show people who Jesus is by doing this. And so we finish this short section off here with an interesting thing, and a lot of people probably don't catch this, right? You just read it and it's like, oh, okay, so let me look at this, right? Peter stayed a long time in Joppa, living with Simon, a tanner of hides. When you read that, it's like, oh, cool. Tanner. Someone who made leather was not uncommon in that day. That's kind of cool. Here's the thing: Peter, being a Jew, right, and staying with a leather worker who's making someone's in the hides, right. This was significant because Peter, he was living at Simon's household, and here's the thing: leather work involved contact with dead animals. And Jews, the Jewish law, considered it an unclean occupation. And so any Jew in that day would not have stayed with Simon in that house because he would have considered it unclean. And so we see that Peter was already starting to break down his prejudices in these customs, the unnecessary customs against people who were not of his kind. And who had customs that did not adhere to the Jewish tradition. So we start to see, hey, we're breaking down these traditions, right? We're breaking down these things that aren't salvation issues, that aren't really necessary, right? And we're focusing on the people and moving through this. And so we start to see this movement away from the traditionalism of Judaism that we see here. And I think this is a good lesson for us because we need to learn to move away from the traditionalism inside of Christianity a lot of times. And learn that sometimes we need to move past some things in order to reach people, and unfortunately sometimes that's hard, right? We get stuck in our ways, and I've talked about this before. We get stuck in our ways, and it can be hard to, but we've got to learn. Now again, I'm not talking about dropping like salvation issues, and no one's, I'm not suggesting that, and most people I know don't suggest that, right? And so it's just getting rid of these things that we've made biblical when they're traditional. And that's the biggest thing that we need to look at. And so we're going to see some more of this because, starting the next day, we're going to see Peter going to the household of Cornelius and being called to Cornelius' household. And this is going to be a huge change for not only Christianity from the Jewish standpoint, but all the Jews who have converted to Christianity. It's because it's going to be a huge move of, okay, we brought the Samaritans in, now we're going to be bringing the Gentiles in. And so I love if you watch this progression and you really watch. I mean, if you read through this quickly, you miss some of this sometimes. You miss the slow transition from Jewish people being converted to Christianity to half Jew, half other nationality than the Samaritans, to it fully going to the Gentiles, that full transition that took place over several years of Christianity spreading and going out to all the regions and all the people. And so it's just really cool to see when you break it down and look at it and witness this way. So I hope everyone's enjoying this. To my South Georgia people, North Florida people who's getting snow, I hope you enjoy. I think it's only going to last about a day and a half. So it's fun. I really enjoy everyone who takes the time to tune into these, and I hope you're learning from them. I know I learn from them every time that we go through and dive deeper into some of the reading. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments or contact us directly. As always, we ask that you subscribe to the channel so you get these daily notes and daily videos, and can read along with us and study with us as we go along. As always, appreciate everyone for watching.